On Wednesday morning, protest action began again as protesters entered classrooms and the entrance to the main library was barricaded. A meeting was called outside the CAFE at 10:30, where the existing demands of the protesters were read out to the students and further contributions were heard. Thereafter, protesters continued to interrupt lectures as the group marched around campus, also chaining some gates in the administration building.
Take it easy for all of us. Just take your things and get out, please.
Later, Vice-Chancellor Mabizela organized a university assembly at which he addressed the students.
The minister was motivated by the principle of social justice and acknowledging the inequalities we have in our society. And so his view is simply that in order to advance social justice, we must assist the less advantaged in our society, and that those who have means must pay. And so anyone who would argue that we need an across-the-board treatment, same treatment for everyone, is essentially saying we should maintain the inequalities that we have in our society. We respect the constitutional right of every person in this university to protest peacefully and within the bounds of the law. No one has a right to interfere with the rights of others. Anyone who violates the rules or the law will have action taken against them.
Professor Susie Fetter also read a document which the university intends to forward to relevant authorities regarding what the university is demanding from the government.
We share with our students the disappointment in the outcome of the government deliberations and the continued lack of financial support for higher education. We can no longer wait with our arms crossed for government to adequately fund institutions of higher learning. We urge our government to provide the necessary funding to ensure that quality higher education is accessible to all, regardless of their financial situation. Section 29(1)(b) of our Constitution states, everyone has a right to tertiary education, which the state, through reasonable measures, must make progressively available and accessible. Universities in South Africa are funded at a level equivalent to 0.75% of GDP. For comparison, higher income African countries spend on average 1.06% of GDP, and other developing countries even more. Saudi Arabia, 2.3%. Russian Federation, 1.8%. Argentina, 1.4%. India, 1.3%. And Brazil, 0.8%. We therefore call on our government, particularly the Treasury and DHET, to come up with a concrete action plan to increase spending on higher education to 1.0% of GDP in the shortest possible time frame. This needs to be framed within the overall objective of reducing the burden of university tuition fees on students from disadvantaged backgrounds while ensuring the financial sustainability of our universities.
One student also spoke to rebut the Vice-Chancellor's points and convey the students' own demands.
We know that rights aren't absolute. We think that when you talk about the infringements of rights, we think that the right to access to education is also a right. So when we talk about the fact that people who earn from 0 to 600 won't get an increase, The problem with that is that we're not saying we don't have money for an increase. We're saying we don't have. We're not saying we can't afford Rhodes University. We're saying we can't afford university in this country at all.
After management left, students met on their own and continued to march. The protest action is set to continue on Thursday. For Activate, this has been Chloe Osmond.